Welcome to Write Now Workshop Podcast, where you can write a book and change the world. I'm your host, Kitty Bucholtz, and this is episode 122, Finding Your Voice in Audiobooks, an interview with Will Dages, coming to you on Thursday, January 17th, 2019. Guess what? I have been working at a video game company for over a week. It's so exciting. I think I found my people. Yes, I ended up getting a job in the narrative department, so the story department, at Massive Entertainment in Malmö, Sweden, the same company that my husband works at. So we sit, like 2 rooms apart, like not 2 little office cubicles, but 2 ginormous rooms that have a whole bunch of desks in them apart. We go to work together every day and come home together every day. And after a week and a half, it hasn't been too much yet. So here's hoping. But seriously, these people are so cool. They're so creative and fun. And I feel like people think like me and like we're all on the same page. And it's wonderful. I love it. So I haven't been doing any writing because pretty much I am drinking in information from the onboarding process as if I were drinking from a fire hose. I know the analogy is getting old because it is so overused, but oh my gosh, it's just all this information shooting at you and you're like trying to integrate it all into your head. But it's so interesting and it's so fun. And so far, I've loved almost every single minute of it. So I've been telling people, I know this is the honeymoon phase and it will end. But right this second, I'm really enjoying the honeymoon phase. So speaking of finding your people, I think that you will find a lot of helpful information and interesting information in this interview with Will Dages. He's from Findaway Voices, which is a not that new company that will help you distribute your audiobooks. And if you like, they will help you produce your audiobooks. So instead of me trying to tell you what Will's about ready to say, let's just listen to him. Take some notes. I think that you're going to find this one helpful and interesting. Have a great writing week. Today's guest is Will Dages. Will is head of product for Findaway Voices and an avid audiobook listener. He's been immersed in the audiobook industry for more than 6 years, working on everything from technology to marketing to product development. He's in charge of guiding the product features and experience for Findaway Voices, a platform that helps authors create and sell their audiobooks all over the world. Welcome, Will.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here.
It was great meeting you. Yeah, we met in Denver last year at Romance Writers of America, and I think you came to our office hours, which is where we met. Yep. And just hit it off right away. And I think right there we said, yes, let's do a podcast together. So I'm glad that we're finally here.
Yes, yes. And part of it was that we had timing issues for, summer vacations and that. But then you were like, hey, I've got an announcement. Can we just put off the podcast till I can make an announcement, right?
Yes, that's right. And I actually have 2 announcements now, which is great.
Yay! So excited. All right, well, let's back up just a step because I don't want anybody to think that Findaway Voices is some startup fly-by-night place. It's actually part of a larger company that's been around for quite a while, right?
That's right. So Findaway Voices has been around for about 1.5 years now, the product, right? But we're not a startup. We're one product inside a larger company. And that larger company's name is Findaway, which is where we got the name Findaway Voices. And Findaway has been around for about 15 years now. That started in 2004. And it launched with a single product called Playaway. And I brought one here for anybody looking on the video feed. It's a little smaller than a deck of cards, and it's a single preloaded audiobook player. So this little device never changes audiobooks. It's always going to be this title. And we sell it to libraries and the US military. And it's a really, really simple way to listen to an audiobook without having to have Wi-Fi. It just takes a AA battery. You just plug in your headphones and go. And so we launched that product about 15 years ago with 20 titles.
Wow.
20 titles, that's it. And that's mind-boggling now because today we have 250,000 titles in our catalog.
Oh my gosh.
So thinking that we launched this with 20 titles is funny now, but it was a big deal then, and we were a startup then, and we had to make these relationships with publishers to get the content. And so that's how Findaway started. We started talking to more and more publishers, ingesting these audiobooks, which were primarily CDs at the time. This is before the iPhone, right? The CDs were dominant. And so we'd take the CDs in and we'd rip the CDs, and then we'd take out all of the insert disc 2, insert disc 3, which didn't make sense on this format. And so we kept ingesting these until all of a sudden we kind of blinked and we said, oh my goodness, we have 40,000 audiobooks now that have all been cleaned and normalized. And Audible's big at this point. This is several years in. And at that point, the company had a decision to make, which is, do we compete with Audible with this audiobook catalog, or do we do something else? And what we decided to do was not compete directly against Audible, but take these 40,000 audiobooks and turn them into an audiobook API. And so what this means is now we have this large catalog of content. We have the relationships with the publishers. We have the royalty rate set. We have the content normalized. We have the artwork. We've done all this work to make these audiobooks great. Now, if you want to start an audiobook company that competes on the global space, you can start that on day one with 40,000 audiobooks in your catalog.
Wow.
And so we start helping more and more companies launch an audiobook business, or existing companies add audiobooks to their offering.
Wow.
And today we work with over 30 partners who all sell audiobooks using Audio Engine, that's Audiobook API. And we've worked with almost every publisher in the world to get their audiobooks in. So we have, like I said before, 250,000 pieces of content now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And very competitive. It's the largest catalog that you can get in any audiobook API anywhere. Wow. And so what do you do as a company when you have all the audiobooks in the world? You have to go make more, right? Yeah. 250,000 audiobooks is nothing compared to the number of ebooks out there, millions and millions of ebooks. And so that's where Findaway Voices came from, as a self-publishing platform to let anybody with one ebook or 10 ebooks or a couple audiobooks that they've already recorded get their audiobooks into the Findaway Voices catalog and sell them through these 30 retailers. And that's kind of the catalyst of the 15-year history of Findaway and how we led ourselves to this product, which has now been around for about a year and a half. But we're supported by the full team at Findaway. So we have a full finance team. We do in-house marketing and design, and we have vast development resources spread across the whole company. So we really can tap into the larger machine of Findaway for anything that we want to do.
Wow, that's excellent. So this is not just distribution, though.
No, so we do two things at Findaway Voices. One, we help you create an audiobook if you don't have one. All you need to do is have a finished manuscript so the narrator knows what to read, and then we'll match you up with a narrator and manage the production from start to finish. And when it's done, we can help get it for sale on all those 30 retailers across the world. But if you have an audiobook that's already produced, maybe you did it on your own, self-recording, maybe you used a different studio, maybe you did it a long time ago as a royalty share, and your 7 years are up and you get your rights back and you want to do something else with it, you can also just skip the production part and just upload the finished audiobook to Findaway Voices.
Wow.
And we should go into the process of making an audiobook a little bit more too, and some of the other stuff. But I feel like I've been barreling through and talking a lot. So
yeah. Well, this is all very interesting, though. I mean, some of the people listening will have already gone through the process to one degree or another. A lot of people don't probably have no idea what you're talking about. So we're talking about once you have a finished manuscript, that's not only a finished manuscript, but you've actually self-published it. It's somewhere available as at least an ebook.
That is the normal way to do it, but it's not necessary. So we can still create an audiobook even if it's not published. In fact, the production process can take 4 to 6 weeks to make an audiobook because you're involving real humans who are doing an art and a craft, and it takes time and scheduling. And so if you want a simultaneous release where your audiobook is released the same day as your ebook, you might want to get that process started 4 to 6 weeks before your launch date, which then means you have to be sitting on an ebook that's not published for 4 to 6 weeks, which, it's a cost benefit, a trade-off that you have to weigh back and forth there.
Right.
But even if you don't ever plan on doing publishing the ebook or print book, you could do audio only. And we've seen some experimentation with that for primarily shorter form content, something that's maybe just a couple hours long, that they might try releasing just in audio and seeing how many of my ebook readers I can convert over to audio when something's exclusive.
Right. Oh yeah, that's a really interesting idea. I was also trying to think of different forms of things that you put into words that would actually work better in some way as an audiobook, or a reason, like business people will have a back of room book that they sell. So they're speaking in the front and there's a book table on the back where you can buy their book. And then a lot of business people write a book just for the purpose of having something to sell at the back. And I'm just wondering if there's any kind of reason why somebody would be like, yeah, not just an audio recording of my talk, but an audio only version of my book. It's just an interesting thing to try to figure out. I wonder if there would ever be a reason why that would be an excellent, marketing direction.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I haven't seen it done before, but what I can say is for back of room books, and especially nonfiction authors, self-recording, making sure that you are the voice that is narrating the book, is really important for some people who rely on public speaking as their primary income, and maybe the audiobook is supplementary, back of room book, that kind of thing, right? You're making 50 grand from scheduling the talk, and you're going to make some extra money at the back of the room. But what you want is to have your voice in that person's ear for a lot longer. Same with,
Right.
It's the same idea behind podcasting, and when a podcaster writes a book, the audiobook's going to be more important because those listeners have grown comfortable and love hearing that podcaster's voice. It would be a weird disjoint if somebody else was reading it, right?
Right,
So we
right.
see self-narration a lot more common in the nonfiction genre, and specifically anybody who's kind of anchoring their career on public speaking.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny because you could even get listeners, possibly listeners who could turn into fans in really odd ways. Like I was looking for books on my Libby app. So I was looking for a book I could check out of the library, an audiobook. And I was searching for Brene Brown because I had just finished listening to another book by her. Yeah.
I just finished a book by her last night, actually.
Oh, do you remember which one?
Braving the Wilderness.
Oh, okay. That's the new one, right?
It's the new one. I just finished it last night.
Ah,
It was
nice.
fantastic.
Oh, wow. Which one did I listen to? Yep, can't remember. She has several titles, and for some reason I can't remember which one because it was a couple months ago now. And so when I was searching for her, she wrote the foreword to Amanda Palmer's book, The Art of Asking. So it came up in the search, and I was like, okay, I'm interested in the title. And then I was like, why does that name seem familiar? Oh, I think she's a musician. Well, she's like half of the Dresden Dolls from like the 1990s. Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure that I've never listened to her music more than what might have been playing on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
But because I had listened to the 5-minute audio sample and I was like, okay, well, it's a library book. It's not costing me. If I don't like it, I'll just return it. And I'm a huge fan of the library and the library system and the whole reason behind libraries. And it doesn't bother me at all if I don't get paid for books that are borrowed from the library. That's just my personal way of seeing the world. So I'm listening to the first couple of chapters and I'm thinking, okay, wow, listening to her tell her story that I know is written down. I mean, she's got to be reading the manuscript in order for it to really be an audiobook, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was so interesting. I had to listen all the way to the end. And now I'm following her on Twitter and I'm looking to see what else she's done. And I'm really interested in this particular piece of music that she put in between. See, that's the other thing about audiobooks. Because she's a musician, she also had bits of music that were in between chapters or sections. And it really added to the experience of saying what she wanted to say, but saying it in her more natural voice, which was as a singer-songwriter, even more than an author, because this was her first book. I'm just wondering, have you seen anything like that in books that you've been putting together over there?
I haven't seen a lot of that because when we get hands-on with a book, it's when we match a narrator with an author. When somebody narrates it themselves, they bring the finished product to us. And
Right.
and we sell it, but we're not as hands-on and don't get as much exposure to that. So I can say from some big productions, I listened to the Bruce Springsteen autobiography last year, and that was very similar in that you heard his voice telling the stories, and there was such a personal and emotional connection with him as you were listening.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't have any anecdotes for books that Findaway Voices has produced, but I'm totally on board with you in that audio can be such a great opportunity to make a much more personal connection. like, author notes at the end of an ebook can make a great connection, but you can sprinkle a little bit of that throughout the entire book experience when it's your passion showing through in the narration.
Yeah, I totally get, like, I think she might have changed back to it, but I know at one point, Joanna Penn, who's a podcaster and writer that I follow, and everybody who's listening, I have already said it before, but check out Joanna's The Creative Penn podcast. Joanna was narrating her own nonfiction books for a while. And then just has so much material out that she stopped and hired someone whose voice was very much like her, she said, and had somebody else doing it just because the massive amount of time that can be involved in it. But I have to say that I am still a huge fan of having that connection, because like, even when I have a great narrator for the 2 novels that I have in audiobook, she's wonderful. She's actually a friend, which is pretty cool too. And she brings the books alive in a way that I love. But even so, like, I felt bad for all the little tweaks that I was like, oh yeah, that's not exactly the way he said it though. And I'm thinking I might try to do my short story to see how it sounds to me and my fans when I'm reading my book the way it sounds in my own head.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I'm glad that you brought this up, because this kind of segues into a marketing tip that I was going to share anyway.
Oh,
but
good.
This emotional connection, while it's super valuable to have the emotional connection with the author, even when the narrator is not the author, that emotional connection can still happen, and often does. And you'll see that there are some avid audiobook listeners who follow the narrator, not the authors.
Yeah.
And so you can have people who are fans of listening to, fantastic narrators, and they know that narrator is going to pick great projects because, they're just fantastic. And so they'll actually follow a narrator from book to book, and that can be a huge marketing asset for you. If you leverage a narrator who already has a following, those are guaranteed sales. That narrator is also going to help you have another vector of sales, at least, to help promote your audiobook, because that emotional connection is great, and it's likely going to happen with a great production, whether it's the author making the connection or the narrator.
Excellent. Good point. Now, because people can come to you and start the audiobook process from the very beginning, are there any tips for authors who are looking to find a narrator who, at the very least, if they don't have a specific and avid or rabid following, that somebody who is just so good that people seem to always be giving them high marks on? I loved listening to them read this book.
So one of the best ways to get really good is with practice and experience. And you'll see that as a narrator gets more practiced and experienced and has more tenure, their rates will also increase commensurate with that. So, so when a narrator comes to Findaway Voices and signs up, we don't just pass them through and say, okay, you're on the roster. We have a casting team that ingests their samples. We look at their bio, we look at their past work if it's not with us. And we have them list all the things that they can do. Like, I can perform a British accent, I can, speak these languages. And then we also take our qualitative casting team's evaluation of them and add to the rubric. So we have a really deep and qualified summary of every narrator and what they can do. And, that's also, I listed a British narrator, but, okay, we think all they can really say is morning, governor. And not much else, right? So we'll put them kind of low on the quality for that and high on some other things. And so really, when you start a project, we have this casting sheet. It's kind of like a dating profile. We ask you a ton of questions about what you're interested in. What's the sound? Is there a sound alike from a celebrity that you really like, James Earl Jones or someone like that? And we can kind of guide our recommendations towards that. That casting form is also a great place to say, I'm looking for somebody who has an existing following and will help promote my book, or somebody who is kind of a diamond in the rough. Those people tend to be booked up a little bit more if their quality is really high and their price is really low. You might have to wait a little bit of time to get somebody like that. But we have over 1,500 narrators now who are onboarded, and so we have a lot to choose from. Wow. And there's some really, really, really talented narrators in our system. And I'm sure that no matter what, we can find someone for you. If you want somebody with that existing base, though, that's really going to punch the marketing hard, you're likely going to be paying a lot more upfront for that.
Right.
Their per finished hour rate.
Now, I have used ACX because that I think they might have been one of the only companies out there that I could personally do the work myself, self-publish it right into its, what would you call it? Into its online software, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm still in the middle of my 7 years with them. There's going to be a lot of people who understand how that system works. Can you just explain in general, sort of an overview of if you already have audiobook files, if you don't, but you want to read your own book, or if you don't and you want to hire someone, can you kind of give us an overview of the process?
Yeah, absolutely. So with ACX, it's an open marketplace, right? You post your project and then you have 80,000 narrators or 40,000, I forget what the number is. It's a lot of narrators that can then bid on that project. And you're listening to lots of samples and making lots of decisions. Very open marketplace. If you really like drilling through and messing with filters and seeing all kinds of inbound and filtering through all that is the place for you. That is very different from what we do at Findaway Voices, which is we curate the whole process for you. So you fill out that dating profile at the very beginning, and we have a human casting team that will take those responses, and they know all the narrators that we work with. It's kind of a mixture of art and science, right? So if you say you need a male narrator, the list, goes in half. And from there, we can have some qualitative and quantitative restrictions on the list until we get to the final recommendations from the casting team, which is usually 5 to 10 narrators. And so we put together a tight casting list, and you don't spend nearly as much time reviewing these options, but hopefully they're far better options and really, really tailored towards you. We have a really good success rate. About 95% of people find the narrator on that very first casting list.
Wow.
If you don't find one, we can get you another casting list, but we have a really, really good casting team who's getting better all the time. And we have a really high pass through on that first casting list. So now you're listening to just their stock samples, the ones that they upload when they sign up. And then you can select any of them or all of them to audition for free for your project. And you'll input up to 700 words, which is about 5 minutes, of any section of your book. And you'll have that narrator will actually come back within a week and read your books. You can hear your book in their voice. And that's really powerful when you're up against 2 or 3 and you want to make a final decision.
Yeah.
And from there, that you can make a decision, okay, I want to book this narrator. And from there, we go through the whole production process. We ask for pre-production notes so that everybody knows how, especially in fantasy and sci-fi, how names are pronounced and worlds are pronounced, and anything that might not be in the dictionary, we ask you to do a phonetical spelling of. And we manage the process from beginning to end. And when the narrator comes back, they're fully finished files ready to be sold on all the distributors. Now, at that point, you can take the audiobook files and run. You don't have to use us for distribution, but we make it really easy to just click a couple buttons and get it for sale right away.
Yeah.
So that's the process for someone who doesn't have audio. If you do have audio already, say you made it with ACX, pay for production, and you went non-exclusive, or you did a royalty share with ACX, which means you have to be exclusive with ACX for 7 years, and maybe your 7 years are up and you want to do something else with it. You just take those files and you start a new project in Findaway Voices, and you can just upload. It's a drag and drop uploader. Enter the metadata and choose where you want it to sell. We have people who can get in and out the process in about 5 minutes to get a book completely listed. So, and we really optimize that flow to make it really easy and intuitive. And what was there was 3 scenarios to run through.
They have never done it ever before in their lives. They already have files or they already have, wait, what did I say?
I think that basically covers everything.
I think we did cover it, yeah.
But yeah, basically we can help you with the production, or if it's already done, no matter if you did it yourself, if you record it yourself, you can come to us and get the specs. So we'll tell you what the bit rate needs to be, what the noise floor needs to be, what the RMS needs to be, head and tail noise, all the technical specifications that you need to hit to qualify. And this is stuff, if we hire a narrator for you, the narrators know how to hit all these specs. And so that'll pass all the QA.
Yeah. Okay. That just sounds fun because we're talking about technical specs. I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. I wanted to try it. Now, Not asking for legal advice. Nobody here. I try to remember to tell people I'm not giving you legal or financial advice. But if you have, say me and my friend Catherine, we've done 2 books together. We're still in the ACX system. But when the 7 years runs out, I don't think that I have the right to use Catherine's voice reading my book forever after that without paying her. I'm sure that can't be the contract that we signed. If so, that's weird. But do you know how it's worked with other people who have come to you after their exclusive contract with ACX has run?
Right. So just for a little extra context on that, the royalty share program is what you're talking about, which means
That's right.
at the beginning of the production, you paid the narrator nothing for their
Correct.
work.
Yes.
But in exchange, for 7 years, you split the royalties 50-50 with the narrator.
Right.
So if it ends up being a really great selling book, that narrator could make 5, 10, 20x what they would have made, but they're taking a risk and they're taking a bet on you. And so my understanding is that, yes, after that 7 years is up, the rights are yours and you can do whatever you'd like with it without paying the narrator anymore. Now, if you're friends with the narrator, you might want to kick them back a couple bucks every once in a while if you feel weird about that. But you know, new books sell. And so we see the trend line for sales on an audiobook, meaning that at the end of seven years, the majority of sales for that audiobook are probably done. And the narrator, if the narrator was ever going to make back the couple $1,000s that they were going to make off the upfront payment, it probably would happen in the first 7 years. So I think that's probably the rationale for it. But yes, once the 7 years are up, now I believe you still have to email ACX and tell them, hey, I'd like to go from exclusive to non-exclusive terms. It doesn't happen automatically. But when you do that and you are on non-exclusive, then you can download those files from the interface and take them wherever you want, hopefully Findaway Voices.
Yeah. And so if someone is coming to you fresh, they've got their manuscript, they want your help to find a narrator and do it that way. Do you only have the pay the narrator program, pay the narrator upfront, or do you also have a way that you can do royalty share with narrators who are willing?
At this time, we only do pay for production. And so everything's based on the per finished hour rate of a narrator, which they get to set. They're independent contractors. They can change it at any time, and we don't influence that rate in any way. Generally speaking, it's between 150 to 300 bucks per finished hour. And you can use the mental math of 9 to 10,000 words equals 1 finished hour of audio. So that 10,000 is a lot easier. So 50,000 word book is a 5-hour book. And if you're paying 200 bucks per finished hour, that's going to be $1,000. Now you pay that $1,000, that book is yours. You get all the royalties and you can do whatever you want with it. You can sell it direct off your own website for whatever you want and make 100%, or you can sell it through retailers. And I forgot where else I was going with that. I want to tease something just for your listeners. Because we have something coming in the next couple months. I'm not going to commit to a release date at this time. We're working through a way to do a version of a royalty share program that we hope will work a little bit better for everyone. And the way it's going to work is going to be basically half price audiobooks. So you'll pay half the narrator's rate up front, and the narrator will get a payment up front, though not their full rate. And then the narrator for the next forget how many years. We haven't worked out all the details yet. But for a period of time, the narrator will also make a cut of the royalties. It'll be less than 50-50. So it's a way to lower the kind of hurdle to getting into audiobooks the first time without signing the 7-year exclusivity for a royalty share through ACX. And it will require some form of exclusivity in Findaway Voices, in that to pay the narrator their cut, we need to know all the sales that happen so that it's fair, right? But the difference in our exclusivity will be, it's not single platform exclusivity. It's exclusively reaching these 30 to 40 retailers through us and no one else, so that we can handle the payments to the narrators. So that'll be the difference. And I'm excited to announce that formally, but I'm gonna just go ahead and tease that for your listeners, something that I haven't told anybody else yet.
Awesome. Oh, this is very exciting. All right. So some of our listeners are also writing nonfiction. So are there any differences in how they would approach the whole should I or shouldn't I, or the actual publishing process with audiobooks?
So I would say if you have a background in podcasting or audio production, or if public speaking is a big part of your business, then I think you should seriously consider recording it yourself. What you may want to do is find a studio or a producer or an editor that you can work with to make sure that the quality is up to spec, because really the best way to make an audiobook sell is to have a great audiobook, right? There's nothing worse than listening to a terrible audiobook that has bad audio quality and it's scratchy and it's popping all over the place, and you're going to lose everybody really fast. So you've got to have a high quality audiobook. If public speaking or podcasting is not a big part of your business, but you think you might want it to be, or you're considering just doing it for the cost reasons, what I would consider is going through the process with Findaway Voices to find some of your top choices if you weren't to narrate it. And then you yourself record the same audition that all the professional narrators are doing, right, and then take them and send them out to your email list, or use it as an engagement on social media to say, tell me which narrator you think I should go with. And presumably to people who don't know your voice. So it's a true test. And if people choose your voice, then awesome. And if people don't know that you're in the mix, they might give you some hard feedback to hear, but it might be really honest and good to know up front whether maybe your voice isn't resonating with your audience. So the biggest thing I think to really focus on is get the best narration that you can for your book. Whether that's you or not is I'm a data guy, I'm a marketing guy. I like doing A/B tests and I like polling. So I love that, and customer engagement. Like, it's just a great reason to engage your Facebook audience, your email list, and get them involved. And imagine the choice is overwhelming, like 80% wants this one narrator. Well, now everyone who voted for that narrator feels invested in your production before it even starts. And they're going to tell their friends, hey, I was a reason that this author went with this narrator. And, it's like a guaranteed sale and guaranteed word of mouth.
Yeah. It moves people kind of up that fan ladder a little bit closer to the super fans, the people who are definitely going to buy it when it comes out.
Yep, absolutely.
Nice. All right. Well, you and I have been talking offline about different things that we were going to talk about in the interview here. So now I'm just wondering, should we go with tips and save the big announcement for the end and have people be like, what's the big announcement? Or do you want to just tell everybody now?
Let's tease them all the way to the end. Make sure that
Let's
they listen.
Do it. All right. I love it. Besides, this is going to be, the middle part is going to be awesome too, because you've got some great tips for people, whether they choose to go with Findaway Voices or not, right?
Yeah. So one of my biggest tips for if you don't use Findaway Voices and you want to go with Audible exclusive, and to be upfront, the reason that people do that is when you go exclusive with Audible, you get a 40% royalty rate. And when you go non-exclusive with Audible, you make a 25% royalty rate. And there is no doubt Audible is a huge player in the industry and you cannot ignore them. And I would never recommend that anybody not put their audiobook on Audible, right? But I believe that increasingly that 15% difference between the 25 and 40% is going to be really easily made up by putting your audiobook on 30 retailers across the world. And we're gathering all kinds of success stories, and we're trying to promote this the best we can. But I get that for the short term, or if you have a really good base on Audible and you're doing well with that 40%, it's hard to justify giving up 15% to go non-exclusive. So that's the reason people do it. But if that is where you are and you have audiobooks on Audible, you probably know already that series do really well. What you really need to make sure that you're doing is thinking about the credit system and how that works to a consumer's perspective. So if you have a 6-book series, you should have a bundle of all 6 books, and you should have a bundle of books 1 through 3 and a bundle of books 4 through 6 to get the hour number up, right? So if you consider the way Audible works, you pay a monthly fee, $15 or so for a credit, and you get to spend that credit on whatever you want. Well, are you going to choose the 2-hour audiobook or the 20-hour audiobook for your credit, right? They both cost $15 to you. We've seen really, really good success with authors bundling content, doing the omnibus, and getting a 3-book series that's 6 hours a piece up to 18 hours. All of a sudden, that 18-hour audiobooks look really attractive for what to spend your credit on. And definitely, as the next ones come out, release them singular and in all kinds of bundles, and rejigger the bundles and do all kinds of stuff with that, because it's a great way to get good traction on Audible.
Yeah. I have heard Joanna talk about that, and she seems to also not only be a fan, but actually showing in numbers that it's done well for her. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I would encourage authors not to forget about is the power of using your narrator for marketing. The narrator is a fantastic resource. It's the narration should really be thought of as another character in the book, right? It's a piece of the story that your listeners will emotionally connect with. And think about doing some bonus content around that. If you have a blog, do an interview with the narrator about what they thought about these characters, or what the recording process was like, or maybe asking if they want to pull out the best blooper from the recording process and giving that away. And also considering for sure, make sure you use the same narrator throughout the whole series, because that's very jarring for listeners when they listen to the same narrator for books 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in 5, it just inexplicably changes. So
Yeah.
knowing how long your series is going to be up front can help you out with narrator negotiations, right? Let a narrator know, hey, I love your voice. I want to use you for the whole series. I got 10 books coming. Do you want to sign up for all 10 at once? These narrators are business people. They want their schedule booked. And if they know they got 10 guaranteed projects that they don't have to go back to the audition stage 4 every time, they're probably going to give you a little cut in the rate too, to say, yeah, I'll be in for 10 books and I'll do it for $25 per finished hour less or something. It depends on the narrator. Some do it, some don't. It's totally up to them. But you see that being a really powerful way to get a lot of loyalty from customers as well. And then also doing some bonus content. So we've seen bonus content work really well for newsletter signups and giveaways, and a great way to test your audience. If you've never experimented with audio before and you have a bunch of ebooks and a great fan base, and you're just not sure if you want to invest in the next book or the whole series in audio, write a short story, maybe 1,000 words, maybe 10,000 words. Maybe, an hour is a good chunk. So probably go for the 10,000 words. That maybe this is something that just happens between books 2 and 3, and have that 1 hour produced in audio and release it exclusively on audio, and see how many people convert for 99 cents to get this thing. Or by signing up for my email list, you get this short story and it gives a little extra depth to some character. It's a great way to see how many people can I convert from my ebook listener or ebook readers to audiobook listeners, and a great way to get feedback on the narration, the portrayal of the story, while only paying for 1 finished hour of audio, which is only, $150, $200 you can probably get away with.
Yeah.
That's a great way to test out the audiobook market for yourself.
That is cool. I like it. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure that everybody is taking mental notes at least. And you're certainly making me think that, this whole idea of reading my short story myself sounds like a fun way to just, first of all, find out whether or not my audience likes my voice reading the story, and to see whether or not more people are interested in buying my other books once they've been able to taste one for free, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah. Also, if you have a series exclusive with Audible, you could use this intermediary story. You probably want to go a little bit longer than 1 hour, maybe up to 2 or 3 hours, just so it's at least a couple commutes worth. You want to fill out a couple days for someone to have to listen to it. But it could be a good opportunity to experiment with wide distribution with these short stories while you're still exclusive with the main stories, right?
Right.
So you were mentioning earlier using Libby, which is the new app from Overdrive, which is coincidentally about 20 minutes away from Findaway. We're both in Cleveland, Ohio.
How funny.
Yeah. And Libby is just a fantastic experience. It's really great. And I also love libraries. So maybe you want to test out your patron-facing marketing and saying, hey, my audiobooks are free at the libraries, or this short story is free at the libraries, and see how that converts. Because you do get paid either when a librarian buys the book or when a patron listens to the book. There's kind of 2 ways in the library world to get paid. You do get paid for those listens, though, one way or another. It could be a great way to just test out that conversion and see, can I be effective in marketing direct to patrons?
Now, is Findaway Voices a way that I can get my audiobook? And say I wanted to do this, try out the library system. Findaway Voices, can it help me to get my audiobook in the library?
Yes, absolutely. We have about 11 of the 30 plus distributors that we send to our library partners. So and that's all over the world too. So we have the big ones. Overdrive is huge. Hoopla is another big one. Hoopla is really interesting, and we've seen a lot of really cool success stories from Hoopla so far. They operate in a kind of a Netflix model where instead of the librarian deciding what they want to keep in their catalog, they open up all the audiobooks to their patrons. And so the patron gets to browse everything, kind of an uncurated list. And the librarians take a merchandising instead of a curation role there. And then when somebody chooses your audiobook and downloads it, it's a fraction of the library retail price based on the length of the audiobook. And you get paid a small amount every time somebody listens or somebody downloads. Whether they actually finish the book or not doesn't matter. It's just that they chose to check out your book. And we see that, it's free to the consumers. You get paid every time they download. If you can figure out the marketing, and we've released a library marketing toolkit with a couple tools and pre-baked images and potential captions for them on social media posts to help with this. If you can convince people to go to the library and check out your book for free, you get paid every time they download it. And it can be a great way to get them into the full series or get somebody out of the full series and dipping into this. Well, maybe your release schedule has 4 books coming out a year. And in those gaps between the releases, you can release these short stories to keep them engaged and thinking about you. The library channel is really exciting. And we have international library customers. We have Wheelers. I think you spent some time in Australia, right?
I did.
Maybe you know Wheelers is a library partner that we have down in Australia. And we have a couple more launching this year, but we have 11 right now. And so it's a really good opportunity.
Yeah. And so library is also a good place for both fiction and nonfiction, right?
Yeah, both do really well there.
Wow, excellent. I have to say, and I wasn't going to, necessarily be trying to, I always try not to sell anything, particularly in a way that sounds like, oh, now Kitty's just trying to sell us something. But seriously, I'm like, I have to do this. I'm definitely going to try to do this in my 2019, list of things that I want to do. I wanted to do it because it just sounds fun.
Well, thank you.
And I have to say, you make it sound like, every new thing has a learning curve, but you make it sound like it's not going to be all that hard. And if there are questions, there's someone to ask.
For sure. So we have an awesome support team, and we answer questions all day long from people, and we use the feedback that we get to guide what we change in the dashboard to make the experience really, really easy for people. And this is what my job is. So if, dear listeners, you go through the process and you hate it, it is my fault. Please reach out to me. I want to know about that because I want to make it better. And that feedback is really how we make things better. We listen really carefully to everybody. And we know that's how we've gotten to the place where we are right now, where it's really easy to get an audiobook. Like really, we do have people who are cranking out an audiobook every 5 minutes this is for when they have the finished audiobook and they're just uploading the files and entering the metadata. But we try to make it really, really easy, and we're getting better all the time. So yes, if you have a bad experience, it is my fault.
Now, you mentioned the dashboard. Tell us a little bit about that. If anybody is already in the self-publishing world, they have their pet peeves about dashboards that they've worked with, ones that they like, ones that they don't. I actually, had to leave. You know what? I usually try not to say the name of the company, person, or book if I'm going to say something negative. There is one place where you can upload your ebooks yourself, create your own account and use their portal. And my personal experience has been so horrendous that at one point I emailed a aggregator, distribution aggregator, and said, I've got to get out of uploading to this site myself. Please help me to find out how you can help me to upload through your site. So everybody has their pet peeves, but tell us a little bit more about the experience. It's 2019. So all of these portals, they get better every year. Tell us about yours.
Sure. So it's all self-service. We're there to help you throughout the way, but you can sign up for an account at findawayvoices.com, or if you have an account with either Draft to Digital or Smashwords, you can take any existing ebook project in those dashboards, and each one of them has a button that you can click to just transfer it directly to us. And
Wow.
any relevant metadata that you have already filled out, like your cover image, your book title, your description, your BISAC codes, all that stuff gets transferred to us automatically, which saves you from entering it in manually. And if you don't have an account with us, it can create an account automatically for you there too. So that's a great way to get started. If you have Draft to Digital account with books loaded in there or Smashwords, you can transfer directly from there into us, or you can just sign up at findawayvoices.com. And you have a dashboard with basically 3 panes. One is your in-progress books. These are books that you have started, but you haven't sent them out to the world to be published yet. And then you have your published books, and this is where you might get your giveaway codes. So we give away free review copies, 30 free review copies to every book that goes through us. You can edit information about your book. So if you got an award or or you maybe have a movie tie-in, maybe like big news like that, you want to update your cover, your description, you can update that and then re-push out your changes to all the distributors. And then we also have sales reporting, which I'm happy to say we have real-time sales reporting for about 15 of the partners. So we don't have it for everybody, and some of them, for various reasons, we will never have real-time, but the ones that we can, we do. And that means when somebody makes a purchase of your audiobook on, say, nookaudioBooks.com, within 5 minutes, it's going to show up in this dashboard. It's unofficial data, so it's trend line data. It's not something that you'd want to give to your accountant. We have the official sales reports that come out monthly for you, but you can see real-time data. You can slice and dice it. We're working on some more visualizations and some like a map view. Like I know everybody loves Kobo's map view.
Yeah,
and it's fantastic. I love it, and we've taken a lot of inspiration from them and the map view to show you where in the world your audiobooks are selling. And then we also have a section where you can download your official monthly sales reports, which we pay out within 30 days of when we receive royalties from the distributors. So that's actually a good point. I actually haven't brought up how we make money yet.
Yeah.
Which I always like to say, because in vain with the we're not a startup is we're in this to make money, and that's how we stay in business and don't become a fly-by-night company that goes away. We have to be sustainable here. So the way we work on the distribution side is you keep 80% of the royalties you make. And Findaway Voices. 80%. And Findaway Voices.
I just had to say that twice because that's a big difference.
Yeah, it's very good. So it's not 80% royalty rate. It's 80% of the royalties you make. So the reason we do that, which I've gotten feedback from some people that doesn't feel very transparent and clear. But the reason we do that is because there's a lot of different ways that money comes in at different times. So imagine you make a sale on ACX. Okay, that's 25% of whatever the price ACX decided to set it at. But then you make a sale at Google, and that's 45% of the list price that you set. And then you make a sale at Hoopla because somebody downloaded your book, and you make 50 cents or $1 every time. And all of these payments are coming in at different royalty rates. And we take care of smoothing that all out and making, okay, here's your lump payment, or here's your lump royalty total together. And we break it out in the report so you can see where everything came from. But we make it really simple. And then there's some subscription, but not to get things too complicated and deep here, but some subscription partners like Scribd or HiBooks work based on kind of a pool model where the more people listen to your book, the more money you make, but it's also based on how many subscribers they had during that time, how many paying subscribers, and there's a lot of math that's kind of not figured out until the end. So we have payments coming in all kinds of different ways. We take that payment and we keep 20% and you get 80% of it there.
Okay, that's right. Because this is not, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not so much a distributor as you're a distribution aggregator. Well, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
Distributor and aggregator have so many connotations with old world businesses that we don't really like either one of them.
Yeah. What do you say?
We like to say audiobook partner.
Oh, I like that.
Because we work with each one of these sellers, audiobook sellers, really deeply. And we work with them on content merchandising, what they should feature. We have content experts. This is where the bigger of Findaway comes into play. And the big machine of Findaway really helps out here, right? We have deep relationships with everyone we distribute audiobooks to, and we help them figure out what's selling really well, what should they merchandise, what are people listening to, what's coming up next. We're thinking 2, 3, 4 months out. And so we're really more than just a distributor. We don't just plop the audiobooks on their doorstep and walk away. We're invested in these books selling because we're making 20% of the royalties. So we want every book to sell as much as it can, and our incentives are aligned with the authors.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like this. Now, that's another thing that I've heard a lot of independently producing, sorry, how do I say this? Independent / self-publishing authors who are producing audiobooks. One of the big things that they don't like about some companies is not being able to choose the price point. So how does the final price point to the consumer work at Findaway?
That's a great question. So in the Findaway Voices dashboard, for every different audiobook you sell, you get to choose 2 list prices. So these are the retail list price and the library list price. So the list price that you set, we send to everywhere that will take it, which is basically everywhere except ACX. So ACX decides what they want to sell your audiobook at, and if they want to discount it, technically Audible's the one that's setting the price to the consumer. Other than that, every other retailer will take your list price and pay you the royalties based off that list price. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean if you set $3.99 as your list price, $3.99 will be the price to the consumer. You actually don't have control over that, but you do have control over what your royalties will be paid on. So if you set a $3.99 list price to Google, and Google wants to sell it for 99 cents, that's fine. Every time that book sells, you're still making 45% of the $3, not 45% of what they sold it for. So the retailers can discount if they want to, or they can mark it up a ton. Generally speaking, pricing in the audiobook world is not quite as sophisticated as the ebook world. So we're not seeing all kinds of price matching going on. We're not seeing a whole bunch of crazy stuff. Most of the time, the list price that you set will be very close to what the consumer price ends up being.
Okay. And do you have any kind of a suggested price chart as part of your website and dashboard? Not dashboard exactly, but as part of your author helps?
I'm glad you asked, because we are working on something right now. So this is, again, I'm going to talk about the big Findaway machine and audio engine, right? We have sales data for 250,000 audiobooks across publishers, across all kinds of genres, across all kinds of different ways that audiobooks are sold: retail, library, subscription, pool, all this data. And we've distilled it down into figuring out some recommendations. We'll put a beta label on this for a little while, but some recommendations based on your BISAC, your audiobook's length, what we think your audiobook would sell really competitively for. And so we're gonna brand this and probably have it called, Smart Price or something like that on the dashboard. For now, for your listeners, if they want to email our support team and ask for the beta price that they think they should list it at, we will manually help every one of them out until this is baked into the dashboard fully.
Oh, that's great.
We want to do it. We want to do it right, and so we're taking our time with it. And then it's a lot of data, and we need to make sure that it's staying up to date and doesn't get stagnant. So we are working on something that will recommend a list price. Excellent. And when you're setting a library list price, you're generally going to want to set that for 2 to 3 times whatever your retail list price is.
Okay.
So when a library buys your book outright, this is not the Netflix model, but this is the other one where the librarian's choosing what's in the catalog. They're going to buy it once, and then it's going to be able to circulate forever. One patron will be able to check it out at a time, just like a physical book, but they'll be able to circulate as many times as they want. And so you want to make 2 to 3 times your normal amount for that sale to account for the fact that a lot of different people are going to listen to it.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Wow. Okay. This is so interesting. I'm like trying to balance out like questions that I think people might have, questions that I might still have with, things that you still want to say. So let's go back to your list of things. Did you still have some more items that you wanted to share with us?
I think that was about it. I think just the big things left are the 2 announcements that I'm excited to talk about.
All right. Well, let's see. Can we think of any other questions listeners might have? Oh, yes. I was just going to say, your very kind offer that for listeners right now, before that beta list price sheet comes out, that they could email and ask a live person there for a little bit of guidance. What email address should they use?
Sure. Support@findawayvoices.com.
Excellent. Easy.
Yep. And we'll get back to you right away.
Excellent. That sounds great. All right. Well, I'm excited. Let's
Me
go.
too.
Drum roll, please.
All right. So we have two big announcements. The first one is we are launching with Storytel this quarter. So Storytel, if you probably know Storytel because you're in Sweden right now, right?
I am. Yes.
So Storytel is a massive audiobook player. They are very aggressive. They're making some really smart strategy moves. And they have over 750,000 paying subscribers to their audiobook service, which is
crazy.
massive. And basically what they're doing is they're targeting countries where Audible does not have a presence. And they're going in and they're trying to create audio first markets.
Wow.
And they are doing a very good job at it. They are doing a lot of original content. They are buying up rights and producing new books. And they are focused on the less established book markets where when somebody is going to be reading a book, a digital book, it's going to be on their phone, right? Likely not going to go buy a Kindle or an e-reader. And when you're reading a book on your phone, the choice between reading an ebook on your phone or listening to an audiobook on your phone, it's a no-brainer. You're going to choose the audiobook every single time.
Yeah.
And so they're really targeting these new markets and they're expanding really fast. And so we're really excited to give authors a chance to get on this train. And I can't wait to see how it does. So that's a really exciting announcement. It's been in the works for a while and we're really, really excited to see what happens there.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience with Storytel personally?
I don't. Unfortunately, I am pretty new to hearing about them. I only heard about them because I heard Joanna Penn talking about them on her podcast. So I'm excited to just go Google them and find out more about all the opportunity.
They're doing some great stuff. And
Nice.
then the second announcement is we now have a direct deal with Apple Books where we can deliver your audiobooks at almost double the royalty rate that you were previously making. So
whoa.
Yes, this is big. So previously, to get to Apple Books, the only way that you could get your audiobook for sale there was through ACX, right? So when you submit your book to ACX, you reach Amazon, Audible, and iTunes, which is now called Apple Books. And they were exclusive for a really long time. And a couple of years ago, they ended the exclusivity contract, but nothing really changed, right? So when you reach Apple Books previously, you were making a 25% royalty rate if you were not exclusive, or a 40% royalty rate if you were exclusive, but you didn't have any control over the list price. So you couldn't tell Apple what your list price was and affect the sales of it. And so now you get both of these things. One, you get a control over your list price that Apple will accept and pay you your royalties off of that. And you're going to make a 45% royalty rate off all your sales at Apple Books, and that's with no exclusivity. So you can still go to Amazon and Audible through ACX. If the book is offered through both us and ACX, there may be a duplicate for a short amount of time, but Apple will hide the ACX one and show the one from Findaway Voices so that you can make that 45% royalty rate.
Wow. Now, do you have any idea? Of course, you know. I was just going to say, in the ebook market, we found ways where, we're doing ads, we're getting people to come find our book on various retailers at full price and also sometimes at a sale price for a limited time. Is there any kind of sale price for a limited time that we can do in any of the stores that Findaway is working with?
Yes. So we support promotional pricing on 4 or 5 stores right now, including Google Play and Nook Audiobooks, and we're working on that with Apple. So we had to get through a big technical hurdle of getting the audiobooks there, and now we're working on all the extra stuff. So I will hopefully have that official announcement within a month or two. We're working out some of the details right now. But the books are live. They were live since mid to late December. And so we're seeing the first official royalty reports come in soon, and we're really excited to see how they do. And we will be opening up the promotional pricing as soon as we possibly can.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, this is really big, great news. I have to say, I have heard a lot of people, not everybody, but I've heard a lot of people talking about, I think I'm going to take a step back from audio. I can't seem to make it work for me. I'm not making any money. I've spent more money than I've made, different things like that. But I have to say that it sounds like there are opportunities with Findaway Voices, and I'm not trying to sell you, but this sounds like a really good opportunity. I, for one, think that there's a lot of pros in reconsidering getting back into audio again.
I think so. The audio world is changing, and it's changing really fast. So if you haven't had success in the past, it's worth revisiting it again now, or maybe within this year at some point at the very least, because for a long time, every audiobook was $15, right? That's the cost of an Audible credit. And so if you had shorter form content, or if you had something that wasn't serialized, it could really be hard to make a return on that. But we're seeing shorter content doing a lot better on subscription platforms. We're seeing even non-serialized content be really good on library platforms. We're seeing a lot of more marketing efforts that can be done, right? You mentioned promotional pricing. Like, price is the biggest lever in marketing. The best way to move interest for your audiobook is to work with the pricing and experiment. And those controls are finally available to authors. It's been a really long time coming. And we're excited to give more and more control, but we're already seeing authors do some really cool, innovative stuff with selling audiobooks and first free in series, stuff like that, that is proven to work well in the ebook world. There's finally the ability to do that in the audiobook world.
Yeah. Oh, this sounds very exciting. This is a good thing to be talking about in January of 2019. We've got a whole new year in front of us. We can rearrange our schedules if we want and go, you know what? Let me just back off doing this sort of thing and add a little bit more audio.
I like the way you think. I like that.
Now, listen, it was so fabulous meeting you in person and then being able to talk to you like this. We really have had like the kind of connection that for me and my personality, when I connect with a human being, it makes me want to work with them more, or when it doesn't work, makes me not really want to work with them. So I only know you at your company. I don't know the other people there, but you are going to be a lot of places over the next year. So tell us a little bit more about how people can find you and other people at your company when you're going out into the public, like at conferences and stuff.
Sure. So we are probably going to be wearing the red Findaway Voices hoodies that will hopefully stand out. You can find us that way.
Nice.
We are on Twitter at Findaway Voices. We're on Facebook. And we're really active with both of those anytime we're at a show. So feel free to reach out on either of those channels if you're at a show that we are also at. And I'll list some of the shows that we're going to be at. We were at, I think, 22 shows last year. Wow. We were all over the world talking to authors and learning so much and meeting so many wonderful people like you that have led to so many good things. And we're going to keep it up this year. So I'll have an official post coming out in a couple weeks with our full itinerary. But some of the places I know that we are going to be is Smarter Artists Summit in Austin, Texas. We will be at the Selmore Book Show in Chicago. We will be at the London Book Fair. We will be at the Frankfurt Book Fair. We will be at NINC down in Florida. We will be at RWA, Romance Writers of America, again. We will be at 20 Books Vegas again. 20 Books Bali just wrapped up. I couldn't get to Bali, but maybe next year we'll be in Bali for that. And a bunch of other ones that I won't personally be at, but somebody from Findaway will be at, and we'll have all of those listed out on the Findaway Voices blog at blog.findawayvoices.com. I'll plug that there, and we'll have our full show list there. So if you're thinking about an event, we've been to a lot of these before, and we're not, they're all great events, which is why we're going back. So it's a great resource to use, even if you're not sure what some of the good events are out there, or if you're a competitor of ours and you want to make sure that you're there. The post is out there for everyone to see where we're going to be.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm not necessarily a fan of no competition. I think that competition helps us all to find ways to be more creative, do things better. So competitors,
I totally agree.
out. All right. This sounds really fabulous. I'm so excited that you gave us so much information, a lot of which people can use whether they use your company's services or not.
Absolutely. Yep.
Wonderful. In fact, I have to say, I've read a lot of blogs for companies that I was like, I may use them eventually, but right now I'm just going to take all the information they decide to share on their blog. So I'm glad you
can
gave
do
us the
that
blog
too.
post. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fabulous. And Will, thank you very much for being on the show. We really appreciate you sharing all this information and encouraging us to go try again with audio.
This was so much fun. It's going to be a great year for audiobooks. I guarantee it. So thank you again for having me on. This was a ton of fun.